The Alaska Native Art Auction Gala is March 21st, 2026 in Anchorage, Alaska. Donate artwork by February 27th, 2026 and be eligible to win $500. Help sustain Indigenous-led media, including National Native News. Donor forms and details are found at knba.org.
Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. In her short 17 years, Keeya Wiki has witnessed the unwavering advocacy of her family and tribe to secure the largest dam removal project in American history. She was among a group of fellow Indigenous young people to navigate the entire length of the Klamath River to celebrate the milestone. The journey is part of her growing advocacy to reach sustainable environmental goals. Wiki is our Native in the Spotlight, and we'll talk with her after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. Federal fisheries regulators last week approved some limits on Western Alaska chum bycatch in the Bering Sea. The highly debated and long-awaited decision aims to protect declining salmon stocks, a crucial food resource for Alaska tribes. Ayolna Naidem with the Alaska Desk reports.
The North Pacific Fishery Management Council voted to set a Western Alaska chum bycatch limit in the Bering Sea pollock fishery. The Council said the move will balance protections for Western Alaska salmon returns while also allowing pollock fisheries to continue their harvest. Council member Nicole Kimball voted for the motion. She says it reflects best available Western and Indigenous science.
I think it's going to change behavior. I think it's going to reduce Western Alaska chum bycatch. I'm sure, as per usual, nobody is very happy, but all of the discussions have really helped inform the outcome.
The troll fishery in the Bering Sea near the Aleutian Islands is focused on pollock, but boats also scoop up other types of fish. That includes chum salmon, some of which migrates to western and interior Alaska rivers and is a crucial subsistence resource there. But chum runs have been declining, leading to repeated fishing closures in some communities. Council member John Mahler is Alaska Native, originally from Unalaska, and is a commercial fisherman. He says he's fortunate to put fish up each year and feels for those who can't.
I know how important that is to me, how important that is to my family, and passing that on to my children. I get that. And my heart is ripped out speaking with all of you that are living on the rivers right now that don't have that same ability that I have.
The Council voted to support a motion that sets a limit to Western Alaska chum bycatch. Exceeding that limit would trigger a partial closure. Rachel Baker is the Deputy Commissioner at Alaska Department of Fish and Game. She presented that motion. Several members who voted against the motion said it isn't likely to provide a meaningful improvement for salmon returns. But Baker argued,
We're at this table used to thinking about large volumes of fish in tons. And we heard in testimony that poor fish were able to provide the needs for a potlatch.
The plan goes to the National Marine Fisheries Service next, before it can be implemented. In Anchorage, I am Alona Naidem.
The recent premiere of Season 4 of AMC's award-winning detective drama, Dark Winds, saw tension and resentment threaten the romantic relationship between two main characters. Brian Bull has more.
After Bernadette Manuelito quits the U.S. Border Patrol and returns to the Navajo Tribal Police Department, it looks like a carefree and intimate rekindling of her romance with fellow officer Jim Chee. But Lieutenant Joe Leaphorn shares a life decision with Manuelito that will shake up the force, a secret which Chee inevitably learns. Feeling affronted and mistrusted, a schism occurs between the couple. Actors Kiowa Gordon and Jessica Manton talk about bringing this conflict to their characters.
Leaphorn's coming from a place of understanding the matriarchy system. And in order to protect this relationship dynamic, she doesn't feel like she's lying to Chee. She feels like she's actually protecting him from what he doesn't need to know. You know, she's dealing with a lot of the PTSD of her just killing a man in season 3. And sometimes you just don't want to tell the truth right away because you might actually spiritually just drown because it's just too much.
And he is dealing with his own demons that he's been pushing away, but now they've come to collect, and having to deal with that and trying to maintain your professionalism when you're working with the love of your life at the same time. And so there's a lot of dynamics being played out.
Meanwhile, an investigation takes the pair in Leaphorn to Los Angeles. Gordon and Manton say much of the filming still happened in New Mexico. New episodes of Dark Winds air Sunday nights on AMC. Brian Bull, National Native News.
And I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation, with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Tribal Development Partners, helping tribes build toward their goals through 105L leasing and essential facility development, empowering sovereignty, strengthening community. More at tribaldevpartners.com, proud supporters of this show.
Hear that? Tribal college faculty do so much, one can't say it all here. Nothing but respect. Visit mostthoroughdescription.com. The American Indian College Fund supports this program.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Keeya Wiki's 310-mile journey from the headwaters of the Klamath River to its mouth at the Pacific Ocean was more than just a tough physical feat. It was a celebration of decades of environmental advocacy that enabled the river to flow undammed for the first time in more than a century. Keeya, who is a 17-year-old Yurok and Maori person, was part of a group of young indigenous kayakers who trained for years to descend the river. Her family's fight to tear down the dams and save the river's salmon runs also inspired her to take on the month-long journey. In the process, she found her voice in the global issue of climate change and environmental advocacy. Now, Keeya is wrapping up high school and looking ahead to using that voice. Keeya is also our February Native in the Spotlight. If you have questions or comments for Keeya, give us a call. The number is 1-800-996-2848. That is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Joining us now on Zoom is Indigenous advocate Keeya Wiki, who joins us from Ashland, Oregon. She is a Yurok and Maori person. Keeya, good morning and welcome to Native America Calling, and also feel free to further introduce yourself.
Okay, Skuyanakoi, everybody. Good morning. Again, Nek now, Keeya Wiki, Yurok Natsipuro Te Apodi Mewa Mechok. I come from the Yurok peoples in Northern California, and Natsipuro and Te Apodi from Aotearoa, or New Zealand, and I'm so happy to be here today.
We're so happy to have you on the show, Keeya, and also another guest we have on the show is Ruby Williams. Ruby joins us from Durango, Colorado, where she is a student at Fort Lewis College, and she is a native water activist and a kayaker, and she is Karuk. Ruby, hello to you as well, and please feel free to further introduce yourself to our listeners.
Ayuki, Nanehoti, Ruby Williams, Neadam Shoot, Cutamin, and Rock Creek. Hi, my name is Ruby Williams. Nice to meet you guys. I come from the villages of Cutamin and Rock Creek.
It's great to have both of you on the show. I'm really excited to talk more with you. And Keeya, this group that you were both a part of, you reached the Pacific Ocean on July 11th of last summer, so it'll be a year here pretty soon, in a few months. And after paddling down the Klamath River, it took you 1 month to make that journey. Take us back to the moment when you arrived at the Pacific Ocean at the conclusion of a month-long journey. What did you feel?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was somewhat overwhelming because kind of the last little stretch, we, as kids, decided we knew how we wanted to, end this journey. And so we had 2 redwood plank canoes, and we were following them. And then it was a line of students behind them. And then everyone else who was with us was behind us. So we were literally getting led, by our canoes. And then when we got to the mouth, there was a whole group of people there, because that is the Rekwoi, means the mouth in Yurok, and that's the village my family comes from. So they were all there ready to greet us. And as I remember, as we were coming in, Ruby was kind of leading us because she was in the middle of this huge line of kids and was like making sure we were all in position. And there were men singing traditional songs calling us in. And I remember getting there and just not hearing anything or really seeing anything. And all I saw was, okay, now we're at the ocean. And there was this, like, my family made this line for us to, walk through and get celebrated, but none of it mattered. We all just got to the beach and just immediately got out of our boats and ran to the ocean. And then we all just screamed and cried, and we were just so proud of ourselves and yelling. And the only people at the beach were the kids at first who said, we want to all be together. And it was so incredible.
It sounds like just like something out of a movie. About how many people were there on the beach?
Oh my God. Ruby, there was maybe 20 kids, maybe a little more, but we had over 150 people with us that day because people from all over the world joined us.
Ruby, what do you remember about that moment? What was it like for you?
Me and Keeya had kind of organized everything the night before, so we had an idea what was going to go on and everything, like she said. And then, I don't know, but like when we first got to the ocean, like it took a long paddle, it felt like, because we're all in line trying to figure out how to all show up at the beach at the same time. And I remember we all just kind of got out of our boats, and it was like this weird moment where we like all kind of like looked at each other. It was really weird. Like instead of just sprinting straight for the ocean, we got out of our boats and we all kind of just like looked at each other as kids and we're like, what do we do now? And then I like vividly remember someone being like, run, and we all just kind of booked it up this steep hill instead of going down this nice path that Keeya's family had made for us.
So excited. I mean, I can only kind of imagine what that energy would be like. You're just off the boat and yeah, there you go. Wow. Keeya, now you and the other kayakers, you put in a lot of training. This was a very serious physical challenge that you took on. Tell me more about the training that went into this. And had you ever kayaked before joining the paddle tribal waters?
Yeah, so I joined Paddle Tribal Waters in the summer of 2023, and I had never done any sort of whitewater excursion at all. And I kind of didn't really want to join because I was like, this is so scary. But, I thought it would be fun. And in the beginning, it was just like a 2-week summer camp sort of program where we're out on the Salmon River and we do 2 weeks of like kind of learning basic kayaking skills and basic river advocacy skills too. They were very weaved together. And then what happened was Paddle Tribal Waters went into collaboration with this high school called World Class Academy that's like meant to take kids around the world and kind of do all sorts of extreme sports. So Paddle Tribal Waters and World Class kind of joint collaborated. And so in the spring, during spring semesters of my sophomore and junior year, me and like 12 other kids, Ruby included, we paddled in Chile and we paddled different rivers around the Pacific Northwest, all to train and build up our kayaking skills. And then in between those times too, we were doing some other kayaking with Paddle Tribal Waters. So it was like, for me, it was 2 years of just kind of dedicating as much time as I could to paddling and being out on the water and spending time with the other PTW kids.
Mm-hmm. Now, once you were out there on the water, what was that like in terms of just the spiritual connection to the river and just understanding the significance of what you and the others were doing? I imagine you had a lot of cerebral moments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, even like our very first day, we put in at the headwaters of the Wood River, and that is a little river that feeds into the big Klamath Lakes. And the water comes directly out of a spring, and it's a very sacred site, and it's so beautiful. and we all, gathered, and we were getting sent off by the Klamath peoples, and we did some smudging, and it really was kind of the first time. And there's a lot of people there, but the minute we got on the water, the main group kind of came together, and we said a little prayer and sang, and it was so beautiful. And the water is so clear, and you can just drink it. It's so gorgeous. But then as you kind of go down the Wood River, it just gets more and more dirty because of agriculture runoff. And so that was kind of a big thing for us, was, we were so excited and so excited to celebrate this huge historic moment, but we also knew that there were, other things happening to our river that we need to be aware of. And so that was kind of it was a good kind of start, I think, was this really grounding moment, but knowing that, we're here for a purpose and intention.
Keeya, explain to our listeners more about the significance of this trip, because, of course, the Klamath River has, because of the work of you and other advocates, those dams have come down. But for most of your life, that river was dammed, and what you did wouldn't have been possible until only very recently. So that's a huge part of this story as well, just having that opportunity. Talk about that as well.
Oh, yeah. So for anyone unfamiliar, the first ascent of the undammed Klamath River we were a group of kids, indigenous kids from the basin. And in the last decade, especially since 2024, but there were 6 dams on the Klamath River, and 4 were removed purely because of indigenous leadership. And, my family and other families coming together and advocating and working with, the state governments and whatnot. And so this journey was to celebrate that and to give kind of the youth and the new generation a moment to, take part in our history and the fight that a lot of our communities face. And every single kid who was a part of this, and it was maybe 25 of us, all of us have a story of, growing up on the Klamath and not being able to swim in the Klamath because it was too dirty, or, going, or like sacred sites being completely washed out and flooded because of these dams. And in 2002, there was the largest fish kill in history that happened on the Klamath because of those dams. So this was just a really exciting moment. And I think not a lot of people thought that this would happen. And, we literally would not have been able to do this 5 years ago when there were still dams. And there are still 2 dams on the Klamath, but.
But wow, though, just the progress that has been made and the empowerment that you and Ruby are describing is just totally inspiring. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back. We'll talk more with Keeya and Ruby. And we have the phone lines open for listeners who would like to join us. If you have a question or a comment and you're just interested in this topic and what it means, the significance of this journey, give us a call, 1-800-99-NATIVE. As data sovereignty advocates work to secure tribal culture and knowledge, artificial intelligence-generated videos and photos depicting lifelike indigenous characters are already drawing massive social media audiences. We'll talk about who is winning the race to protect against appropriation in the age of AI on the next Native America Calling.
Support from Davis Keelan Law Firm, a New Mexico firm standing with Native families suffering catastrophic loss. When tragedy strikes Indian country, we fight to restore stability, dignity, and justice. Bringing a voice to Native families and communities for 20 years. More information, daviskeelan.com.
Thank you for listening to Native America Calling. We are talking with Keeya Wiki, who, along with a group of young indigenous kayakers, paddled down the Klamath River last summer to mark the removal of century-old dams. Listeners can join us today. Call 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. And Keeya, before we went to break, you were talking about how you and the other roughly 25 members of Paddle Tribal Waters, your entire lives, the Klamath River has been dammed up, and this making a trip like this wouldn't have been possible. And you talked also about the significance of the advocacy that went into this. And you come from a family of environmental advocates, and your aunt, who was a researcher, Amy Bowers Cordelis, she's been on our show before, and she's talked about her passion for the Klamath and also being inspired by her grandmother. Tell me, who do you draw from, and what do you carry from your family as fuel for your own passion for this river?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely am, constantly inspired by my auntie Amy. She's so articulate, and I've been in some really insane spaces with her. Like me and Ruby and her, we spoke at the White House Water Policy Summit a couple years ago, and we were both recently on the Kelly Clarkson show. And she's so incredible. She's so clear-eyed, and knows what to do, and has such a big heart and is so incredibly grounded. But I also draw from my other auntie, my auntie Sue, who is so strong and such a big advocate, and has always showed me that the place that we come from a place of abundance and love always. And also, of course, me and Amy's grandmother, or my great grandmother, our sweet Gram. She's so funny and so passionate, and also so strong. And I guess I was just raised by a lot of really strong aunties.
Now, there was a fish kill back in 2002, and you would have been too young to have experienced that or witnessed that firsthand. But I know it was a huge part of your aunt's inspiration for the fight to remove the dams. Tell me more about how you learned all of this history, and what's your memory of when the dams actually came down?
Yeah. I mean, the history of the Klamath, I don't really think no one ever really sat me down and, taught me it. I think that's how a lot of us learn about our history and our culture, but I was just grown up, with it. And I always knew, like, I remember being so little and my grandma telling me, like, there's so much salmon. There used to be so much salmon in the river. You could walk across it on the backs of them. And I was like, okay, that's not true. That's not what I'm seeing. That's not how I'm feeling. But I knew that, like, that was once our reality. And then I was just kind of, knew that there's this big event and that we would always be fighting for dam removal. And I definitely grew up, like, on the side of the highway with a little sign that said, justice for our river. And so when those dams came down, it was such a surreal moment, because I really, I don't know, I honestly, I guess I didn't really think it was going to happen. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was possible, but to really, finally see those dams come down, it was so incredible. And I remember, going to my cousin's house, and Amy was there, and she was like, Keeya, that last dam is down. And I was just like, oh my God. And I think I cried a little bit, and I screamed and I yelled, and it was just so beautiful.
Ruby, what was your familiarity with the Klamath before the dams were removed, and then also when they came down?
Yeah, so I obviously grew up on the Klamath River my whole entire life. I've always been told that it's been way too sick, and I can obviously see it. It's always been this algae green color rather than its steelhead green color that I used to hear from my family members before me. And I've heard the similar stories of being able to walk across the river on the backs of the salmon, or just being able to it was so clear that you could spearfish the salmon and be able to take 50 of them back to the res and feed all the elders and stuff. But that hasn't been our reality, obviously. But when the dams came down, I knew from that moment on that things were going to change, and sure enough, I have seen the change already. That summer afterwards, that spring, the river, my dad first thing he came in and he's like, the river looks so good, Ruby, because he drives down river every day to go to work, and he looks at it and he's like, the river looks so good. This is the first time in years that I've ever seen it, the steelhead green color that everyone talks about. And so it's been really cool to see the before and after, obviously. And then I remember when the dams came out, I was in Canada for part of the preparation that I did for getting ready for the first descent was to go to World Class Academy without paddle tribal waters. And so I had the opportunity to go into Canada and Africa. And so when I was in Canada, I remember getting the news, and I kind of just started like screaming, and I was like, yes, yes. And I was like so excited, and I went and I ran to my best friend Jaden. I was like, the dams, they're done. We're going. It's gonna happen, Jaden. And we just like all were yelling, and everyone was kind of like, what the hell are these kids yelling about? What the hell? But yeah, it's been amazing, the journey and everything.
Hearing both of you describe, I mean, Keeya mentioned a minute ago being on the Kelly Clarkson show and then just some of the international exposure. I want to ask you both more about just how significant this has been and how many people around the world have embraced what you and others are doing. But before we do that, let's take a caller. And this is Susan, who is listening online in California. And Keeya, I think you might recognize Susan's voice. Good morning, Susan. Hello, and thanks for joining us.
Ayukui, good morning. I'm honored to be with you this morning. Just want to say how very proud I am of Keeya and Ruby and all of the students who took this historic journey down the Klamath. And we were waiting for them at the mouth of the river. And to see them come out in a line out of the fog was so amazing that and the bursting of pride that we all felt for them, because 30 days on the river wasn't an easy journey, and they sacrificed a lot to donate that time. But I really wanted to ask them what they haven't talked about, and each of them, have their own stories, and they were able to tell it in such a wonderful way to the world that was incredible for all of us to burst with pride and to be a part of that moment. But each of you experienced a spiritual and connection to the ancestors in your journey down the river. And if you could just talk a little bit about that so that our listeners can hear what a magnificent journey you were on.
Keeya, go ahead. Tell us more about the spiritual journey.
Okay, well, thank you, Auntie. Happy you're here. For for me, I guess so when I first did paddle troubled waters in that summer of 23, that was kind of the first time I'd ever really swam in the Klamath because, it was so dirty. And it was something, and that's like when dam removal started was that summer. So it was kind of already getting a little cleaner and a little more easier to swim in. And I remember just like being so happy and so overwhelmed. And also that whole 2-week, where I like first learned to kayak was also just so fun and like really kind of a big turning point for me. And then right after those 2 weeks, I went back to Rekwa, where my family's from, at the mouth. And I just started bawling and crying. And my sister was like, are you okay? And I was like, I just love where I come from so much. And then that was just a really big thing for me. And, kind of from that, I was able to get a song, and that was just really important. It was like rekindling the connection to my river, and really truly forming a relationship was really special for me, and definitely like just changed how I look at the world and completely changed how I, the things that I do. Yeah.
Keeya, are you okay telling us more about the song?
Oh yeah, I mean the song was because also at that time, my family was hosting a ceremony that we have every summer, and my sister was playing a big role in that ceremony, and so I was spending that kind of just around that time. I think I was spending so much time on the river and so much time with my sister and my family, and dam removal was happening, and it was just a really beautiful time, and people were really excited. And so that song, I don't know, I just cried, and then there you go. Prayed a little bit. Yeah, and so I guess and then I brought that song to ceremony, and it was really beautiful.
Thanks, Keeya. Ruby, how about you? Tell us about your spiritual awakening or experiences that you shared or felt.
Well, I don't know. I've always had this deep connection to the river and how I like to bring myself around it and everything, but I think that obviously the descent like really showed me a new way of looking at it, in that like more as a family member. Like I've always been taught that it's been a family member to me, and like, but I haven't felt that connection as much until I was able to be like with it in that way, like kayaking, and like you're a part of it, you're one with it. And I think it does a really good job of showing you that, and I don't know, through that I've been able to just have these deeper feelings for it and this deeper sense of protection over it. And like I wasn't able to get a song from the river, but I have this sense of like home in a way that I never have had before. And so, yeah.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing, Ruby. Keeya, you mentioned earlier briefly the Kelly Clarkson show. You've also appeared in a documentary titled First Descent. You were a delegate to the UN Climate Summit in Brazil. You and some of these other people involved, you're getting a lot of exposure, a lot of attention. Do you feel any pressure speaking out publicly on behalf of your tribe and your family, your community?
Oh, geez. I think a little bit, but I also like, a lot of the things that I do, especially when it comes to media and like, being on this and being on the Kelly Clarkson show and speaking at going to the United Nations Climate Conference. It's all I'm always doing it with people who I love so much, like Ruby. And doing it with my family. But it's also so important to represent and like be an Indigenous person in these spaces that don't often see us or hear from us. And so while I feel it's like, it's a little scary to do those things, but I also think it's so important to represent and make sure that Indigenous peoples are heard. And that's what I care about most. Yeah.
And Keeya, what about other Indigenous young people that you have met from other communities, maybe even from other countries? Obviously, they're feeling inspired. They're feeling motivated by what you and Ruby and the others are accomplishing. What do you hope is the takeaway from this 5-10 years down the line when you look back? What do you hope this ultimately accomplishes, not just for the river, but for young Indigenous people in general?
This is such a hard question because, I am like, I'm an Indigenous youth myself, but I guess what I want, people to really take away is that there's so many people who are out here who will support you. And that your words and your stories, especially, being an Indigenous young person are so valuable. And it's important to just, really kind of get involved and, hang out with your family and your elders and learn from them, and then take what you learn and bring it into spaces where you might not see yourself. That could be in the classroom or, just somewhere around a community. I think that's the biggest thing, is that, our words are powerful and that people should respect us. And yeah.
Who are some of the other kayakers who made the descent with you and Ruby? Where all did they come from?
All the paddlers come from are indigenous to the Klamath River Basin. So you got the Klamath peoples, the Hoopa peoples who come from the Trinity River, but that's one of the largest tributaries to the Klamath. The Karuk peoples, kind of in the middle, and then the Yurok. There's also some other people from the Warm Springs Reservation up in Central Oregon. And there was some kids who kind of like live in the Klamath River Basin, but may not be indigenous to there. Aiden He's Tahana Atsum. But there were 3 boys in particular I just want to shout out real quick. Julian Rogers, Odette Rogers, and Jaden Dawes, who are Hoopa, and they paddled the entire river, including the class 4-5 whitewater sections.
What was it like just being out there? I'm just interested logistically. Like we talked a little bit before the show about some of the snacks you had and the beverages that you used to just stay hydrated. But being out there for a month, I mean, what was that like throughout the course of that whole journey?
Being out on the water, or being like just paddling down? Because
both.
Okay, because what would happen, and Ruby, you might be able to speak to this a little better, but what happened was we would stay somewhere, paddle a section of river, and then either go back to that campsite, or just kind of like a river somewhere on the river bar, or we would continuously travel downstream and move every night. And so it was a lot of okay, pack up, paddle, unpack, pack. And it was very busy, and all of us were just living out of these big dry bags for a month. And we all kind of really stunk. But it was but it was a lot of fun too. And every day was a little different in terms of one, the whitewater we would face, but also the miles we had to make. Because that was the biggest thing the whole time, was we have to make miles. So there was one day where the first day we paddled 19 miles, which was terrible. And then one day we paddled 20 miles, and that was a lake day, so it was just completely flat. And it took us a long time. But, then some days were 10-mile stretches with continuous white water. And so every day was just completely different. But every day was also so fun and special, and every day kind of produced a really beautiful moment for us.
1-800-996-2848. If you would like to talk with Keeya Wiki, ask her a question, or just let her know how much you admire her and the other members of Paddle Tribal Waters, give us a call. 1-800-99-NATIVE.
Support by the Gathering of Nations Powwow. The last dance is this April 24th and 25th at Expo, New Mexico. The Gathering of Nations Traders Market will be in the Creative Arts and Lujan buildings both days. Tickets available at gatheringofnations.com and at the gates.
Need help identifying community priorities? Kaufman & Associates' approach to evaluation is rooted in Indigenous knowledge, honoring tribal history, and sovereignty. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
We're glad you're along with us today on Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce, and we're talking with Keeya Wiki and Ruby Williams about their month-long journey down the Klamath River. They are the first from the Yurok and Karuk tribes, following the largest dam removal project in this country's history. You can join our conversation with comments and questions by calling 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. And Keeya, now that you and the others have made this first descent, are there other young Yurok people who also want to make a descent of their own on kayaks?
I think so. I mean, we have kind of a running joke that we'll just be doing that trip every 5 years, which is insane. I don't know if my back's ready for that, but I think there's other Indigenous kids around Native America that are looking to do something similar. And I know that in New Zealand, there's a tribe that, paddles from their headwaters to their mouth. So I don't know if more Yuroks are going to be doing this, but hopefully we can do it again or something similar.
And your family in New Zealand, how are they taking this all in, and what kind of inspiration do you draw from those folks?
Oh my goodness. I think my Maori whānau is proud of me and excited that I did this, and that I'm, a wahine Maori. I'm a Maori woman out here representing. And I think, there's something so I'm so grateful to be, indigenous to two different places because, also as a Maori, we have, we are voyagers to quote to quote Moana. My dad, grew up outrigger canoeing, and the water and especially the ocean has always been so important to me and always like my family. So I think it was just fun to kind of, take this journey. And oh my God, okay, I got a tattoo for this, a moko, in New Zealand for this moment because before, for Maori, before you do a hard thing or like go on, a great voyage, you get moko to know where you come from and to know that you can do hard things. So that was really special too, was kind of interconnecting my two different cultures into one. Yeah.
Ruby, I want to go back to you. Earlier, we heard Keeya refer to class 4 and class 5 sections of the water. What exactly does that mean?
Oh yeah. Okay. So the whitewater sections are like leveled in a way. So like class 1 being like flat, and then class 5 being like the stouts, like really hard to maneuver, very like continuous, rocky. Just you have to have a little bit more skill to be able to run those kind of rapids. And then I don't know, when I like to think of like whitewater, I don't think of it as like solid like 1 to 2 or 3 to 4. It's like 2 plus 3 minus, or 3 plus 4 minus. It's also a really good way to look at it because, I mean, every section of water is different and it has its own like technical features that you have to go about. And so I think that it's like a ever-changing scale, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Ruby, what part of the descent was most challenging for you?
Oh my God, the flat water. The flat water by far, which you wouldn't think it is because you're just paddling straight, like, and it, like, I don't know, when we were on the lakes, there's that second day where I think we did like 20 miles or something like that. And we had just gotten off the Wood River, and we were going on to the lake for the first time, and we were all so excited to finally reach the lake after paddling so long on this river. And we thought it was like going to be this awesome milestone. It wasn't going to be that hard. And then we got to the lake, and we didn't have our sea kayaks yet, which sea kayaks are a lot different from like our regular kayaks, our whitewater kayaks. The sea kayaks are a lot narrower, and so they're able to go through the water a lot faster than when it's flat. And I remember we got there, and all of us just were miserable. There was a headwind. We were all getting fog burn because none of us thought to put sunscreen on because they're like, what? No, we don't ever wear sunscreen. We don't need it now. Fog burn's a lot different, we come to realize. And it was just so hard.
It sounds, I can't even imagine what this would be like. It just sounds so intense. Well, Ruby, what do you have planned now? I mean, based on this experience, what you've learned, how you've grown and developed, what's your next challenge? What do you want to accomplish next?
Oh my goodness, this question is always so hard, but next I'm really working towards getting my instructor certifications, and so that I can then teach more Indigenous youth to kayak, and hopefully being able to give back to my community and give opportunities in the ways that I've been able to receive. I think kayaking has opened so many doors for me, and travel and just learning about different cultures, like going to Chile and visiting the Bio River was like the most eye-opening experience that I could ever ask for. And I think that every youth should be able to at least have that opportunity at hand if they want to try and take it. So I'm really working hard to get my instructor certifications to go back home and teach more kids to kayak, as well as I'm currently in college at Fort Lewis I'm getting my degree, hopefully, in environmental conservation and land management. And so, yeah.
Sounds exciting. Keeya, how about you? Obviously, you're going to graduate here in a few months, and then what comes next?
Hopefully I'll graduate. We're trying our best. Just kidding. But
you'll graduate. Come on, you know you will. You got this.
Yeah.
If you can do this descent, surely you can finish high school, right?
Exactly. I don't know. The second semester is really kicking my butt. But nah. Yeah, I mean, I also want to go to college and probably study something along the lines of environmental studies or even, public policy and econ. Just kind of figuring out how best I can give back to my community, but also, keep kayaking in college and, then go home and kayak with, my cousins and whatnot. Yeah.
You shared before the show that you were on the water in September, and so it's been a few months. But what about this summer? You think you'll get back out there a little bit, maybe?
Oh, I will get back out there. There's gonna be, yeah, I know I'm gonna be doing some kayaking on the Salmon and the Klamath with paddle trouble waters, and that'll be really fun. And hopefully I can get my own boat, and hopefully I can go kayaking with Ruby.
What about more speaking engagements? I mean, any more opportunities to travel and do presentations or any other sort of outreach, just getting the word out about all this work you folks are doing?
I think so. Things just kind of happen for me and Ruby, I think. But I know that a lot of people, especially like in the community I live in, are really inspired by this moment and this feat, especially with a lot of us being so young, that, showing that youth do care and that we are getting out there. So I know I have a couple fun like travel things coming up, and, talking about, being a young person and mental health and how important it is to, get kids back out on the water or back in their homelands for their mental health. We'll see. I guess we'll just see what happens in the future.
Mm-hmm. Keeya, I also want to ask you about fishing, because that's another part of your heritage, your culture. And your Aunt Amy, she's a big fisher. Is that something that you're interested in as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love fishing, but I'm also can't technically fish on the Klamath River in the Yurok reservation. But this summer, me and my sisters, we went out and fished with Amy and her dad, and I gutted a salmon for the first time, which was really fun. They made me eat a salmon heart, which was not that fun, but it's okay. We're just like that. But it was fun, and I really do love fishing, and I hope to do more of it. And also, Amy is an insane fisherwoman and is always out on the water and is so knowledgeable about fishing, and she loves it, and her kids love it. And so hopefully I can go with them more. If you're listening, Amy, take me fishing.
I think she is listening. She'll probably give you a call here or text you right after the show. You guys can go out. What about compared to other people your age, kid? Because I just can't get over the fact that you're only 17 years old, and here you've presented at a UN summit. You've been on the Kelly Clarkson show. Do you think you're different from other people your age or not?
Oh my God. I don't think I am. I mean, listen, especially like, me and Ruby, we have done these, really crazy things, but also we are just we're just teenagers. And, like being on the first descent too, kind of this funny anomaly where we were all so into it, all like, whether it was 20 or 30 of us, because it fluctuated, but there was always like I was always constantly surrounded by, other Indigenous teenagers. And then we would like go out, we'd be like on the river for a week, and then we'd go out to a store, like into society, and people would be like, oh my gosh, you're doing this crazy thing. And I was just like, oh my, like, I didn't know what to be like professional or be like, I'm just a teenager, I'm just doing these things, and it's so fun. And I'm just like with other teenagers. But so I don't think I'm different from anyone. I just think I just have been given really insane opportunities that I am, eternally grateful for.
And you've taken advantage of them. That's what I really admire is you have a lot of initiative. Keeya, 6 dams originally on the Klamath. 4 of them have come down, but there's still 2 left. What are your thoughts about those 2 remaining dams? And is there any effort at any point to address the removal of those?
Oh, yeah. So there's still 2 dams, the Keno Dam and the Link River Dam. And what's interesting is that the Link River Dam, because when we were doing the descent, we had to portage around them. We had to like walk around them. So the Link River Dam is kind of almost meant to be there. So when the way that the river and the mountains, kind of what is now the state of Oregon, formed, there was meant to be a blockage there. There was kind of meant to be a natural dam to kind of separate the river and the lakes. And then, when settlers came, they blew it up, put a dam in. And so that's kind of, it's a weird, I guess it's a very specific situation. And then I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about the Keno Dam or the efforts to remove them, but I know that the Keno Dam is not good for the lakes or the river. And it was very evident when we had to paddle around it, and we were paddling through like lily pads and algae, and we were kind of like almost getting stuck a couple times because the river was just, there's so much going on in the river. And then right under the dam was this beautiful, clean, flowing river that was gorgeous.
Keeya, what type of pushback have you received, if any? I'm thinking of maybe parties that were critical of the dam removal, or just any other groups that maybe just aren't all that supportive of the work that you and others are doing.
There was kind of one funny moment on the descent. We were staying at this campground that was right where the J.C. Boyle Dam used to be, and where this huge, very dirty, gross, stinky lake used to be. And this campground had like camp attendants staying there, and they came up to us and asked us, they were like, why are you doing this? We think it was funny because a lot of what I heard was, it's so cool that youth are doing this, and that, you guys are back on your river, but dam removal is a terrible idea, and it's horrible. And so that was kind of a funny like dichotomy, was like, we're so cool that youth are out here and you guys are terrible. But the people who came up to us at the campground,
Well, why did they think it was bad, the removal? What was their argument?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, the people at the campground, they were just mad that there wasn't a lake there anymore, and that, the salmon or all the fish in the river were going to decline, and that there were, turtles that they don't see anymore. And we just kind of had to explain that, there was this really stinky, dirty, disgusting lake here, and that no animal could actually really survive in these waters. And the reason these dams got taken down was so these animals could survive, and that the turtles could live in more healthy, sustainable conditions, and that, salmon will be running past your campground again. Yeah, it was funny that people just didn't really understand. They were just so mad that they didn't see the turtles. But the turtles are still there. Don't you fret. They're healthier now too, I bet.
Right on. We're out of time, so we're going to have to wrap this conversation up. But Keeya, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ruby, thank you as well for joining the conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me as well.
We're going to wrap this show up, but again, big thanks to both of our guests today, Keeya Wiki and Ruby Williams. And please join us again tomorrow on Native America Calling for a discussion about the intersection of artificial intelligence and cultural appropriation. I'm your host, Sean Spruce. Enjoy the rest of your day.
tribal colleges and universities support their students in countless ways. They say I believe and offer help before it's asked.
Hear that? That's everything tribal college faculty do for their students on Fast Forward. Because if one tried to say it in real time, they'd be here all day. They teach, guide, comfort, and connect. And for that, the community is grateful. Learn more at mostthoroughdjobdescription.com. The American Indian College Fund supports this program.
They give extensions, cheer progress, share laughter, create calm, and allow reflection. They inspire hope, share wisdom, guide gently, validate feelings.
Who protects Indian country? Amerind does. As the only 100% tribally owned insurance carrier, Amerind helps strengthen tribal communities by providing reliable insurance coverage and keeping dollars in Indian country. From property and liability to commercial auto and tribal workers' compensation, Amerind is here to protect what matters. Celebrating 40 years of serving Indian country. Learn more at amerind.com. That's AMERIND.com.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.